Hello, friends. The skin cancer on my chest is spreading. And I don't normally make videos not wearing a shirt, so I'm going to put one on. And I don't intend to not be wearing shirts in my future videos, but I did want to share what's going on in regards to my skin cancer because I'm noticing cancer on the uptick everywhere. And I stumbled across some information that I think you really must know because it's actually happening everywhere and it's happening right in front of us right now. Institutions, hedge funds, money managers, and this is going to tie back into my skin cancer, trust me, but there is a quiet storm happening in the background from the folks who talk about you will own nothing and like it. And it is terrifying because I see this economic cancer spreading everywhere. And yet I see everyone lining up to take the bait and fall into line because it's the easier, softer way. And nobody seems to be putting two and two together, but I'm gonna do that right now. But I'm also gonna talk about my skin cancer. So I had this biopsy that came back as cancerous. They removed it, and fortunately I did not have to have the Mohs surgery that is the next step in the evolution of the treatment process. But they got everything, it was all good. And unfortunately, when I was at the gym yesterday, I mistakenly scratched my chest because it was itching, and I ripped the scab right off and aggravated this wound that is healing. But I also wanted to share that prior to the dermatologist that I currently use, who is an expert, and if you want an expert and you happen to be in West Boynton Beach, I will absolutely hook you up. Just leave a comment down below and I will get you connected right away. But the previous dermatologist wanted to, in fact, what they actually did was I went in for my routine skin cancer check, and it seemed like a normal day. It seemed like a normal procedure. It did not seem noteworthy whatsoever. And yet they took a few things off my face and they biopsied them. And a few weeks later, I got a phone call, not from the doctor, not from the doctor's assistant, not from the nurse. I got a phone call from someone within their sales team who informed me that I must have surgery and I must book it immediately because they don't have openings for the surgery that I require. And I was put aback. I was actually completely floored that they would ask me to get not even ask me, they would tell me I require surgery on my face, and I'm hearing this from a salesperson on the other end of the phone. So I was confused, and I asked the follow-up question, are you the doctor? And they said, no, we're part of the, not sales team. We are part of the booking team to get you lined up for surgery, which seemed absolutely ludicrous because last I was there, I spoke to a doctor and they seemed to think there was no big deal. But had it been any other place on my body, I probably wouldn't have even questioned it. But because it's on my face, I was far more concerned. And yeah, I'm getting older, and yes, I'm probably a little bit vain, but the last thing I want is a massive scar on my face. And if I do require surgery, which at some point I might, I absolutely want to get a second opinion. I want to know everything there is to know about what my prognosis and diagnosis is. And I want to know what all the surgical treatments are and all the options are available to me. I'm not going to take it at face value from some moron who's calling me to book a surgery so they can get paid. 0% chance I'm buying into that. And so I escalated my inquiries, and eventually what they said was, well, it sounds like you really want to talk to a doctor, so we'll schedule an appointment for you to come in for a consultation. And great, that's what I did. When I got to that appointment and I asked the doctor why they require that I have surgery and why they didn't call me directly. Instead, they pivoted me to somebody who is part of, best I can tell, their sales team that books surgery so they can get paid. The doctor, who wasn't exactly a doctor, I think she was a a medical practitioner or whatever the step is, or 2 steps are below being the actual doctor. And to be clear, I don't want to talk to a doctor. I want to talk to the specialist. I want to talk to the dermatologist who owns the practice. I want to talk to the chief person who is the most experienced and knows exactly what they're doing. I don't want to talk to their 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, or 15th in command. I want to speak to the authority. And I was not speaking to the authority. But I got enough information from her to realize that this is a clown show. And had I gone along with what they wanted me to do, I would have had a major surgery on my face, which likely would have permanently scarred me or disfigured me in a way that I could have avoided completely by just asking questions. And it infuriated me because I also know that I am not like everybody else. And I'm sure there are lots of folks who just leaned right in and did whatever they were told and got whatever the surgery was. I'm not that guy. So while I was there and I was asking her questions, she quickly revealed to me that there's no need for me to have surgery. They can very easily just scrape it or zap it off my face, and that's the end of that. So what went from a potentially disfiguring surgery, which would change the way I look materially moving forward, instead, I got a little scrape or a little zap or a combination of the two. Honestly, it was so uneventful, I don't even remember what it was. But that was the end of that. And it was also the last time I ever went to that dermatologist. So be careful and be aware, be informed, make sure you ask questions, but don't just sign up for a surgery if you don't know exactly what's going on. And I suspect right now there are lots of folks that don't know what's going on. Now I'm going to tie it back into the institutions, because right now, Walmart, I was in, obviously it's Christmas time, right? There's a lot of holiday season buying that's going on right now. And everywhere that I went to shop, there was some form of buy now, pay later. And Amazon's doing it, Walmart's doing it, Target's doing it. I think every retailer is doing it. Actually, that's not true. I'm sure Lamborghini isn't doing it. But anyhow, most of these major retailers are offering this convenient way for you to take on more debt. Now, I used to be a stockbroker in a previous life, and I know that there are very strict rules around lending. I know there are lots of disclosures that must be disclosed when taking on a credit card or taking on a debt obligation. There's a whole system of policies, procedures, checks and balances for you to qualify to be extended credit, which said differently, to take on more debt. However, the workaround to get around the Credit Protection Act, and I may be saying it wrong, is these buy now, pay later opportunities, these buy now, pay later companies. And I'm going to get into detail as to who they are and who they're owned by, because it's terrifying that the cancerous debt that is accruing across the board everywhere, the consumers, Americans right now are holding on to, are carrying more credit card debt than they ever have in history, to the tune of trillions of dollars. But why should the consumer be any different than the government? The government has taken on more debt than they ever have in history, and they don't have the balance sheets to be able to fund their previous obligations. There are right now checks that their ass can't cash right now. They're issuing more debt right now that they can't possibly fund. And there's all kinds of issues with Social Security, and there's all kinds of types of entitlement programs that are at risk in the future because the government's broke. But I don't want you to be broke, and I certainly don't want you to take on an obligation when you don't know what you're saying yes to, because it's insidious and it's cancerous. And it gets a whole lot worse. But Walmart is the biggest offender because they just did this to their self-checkouts. and they laid a very dangerous trap. It is a major change, and it tells me that the economic collapse that everybody's been afraid of has already started. It has already begun. But breaking news, and it's dated December 26th, today's the 27th, Affirm, a buy now, pay later. Now, when I say Affirm, I don't mean a firm. The name of the company is Affirm. A buy now, pay later provider has expanded its services with Walmart to bring transparent and flexible pay over time options to self-checkout kiosks at over 4,500 Walmart stores in the United States. Now, I don't know if you've ever used self-service or if you think it's a good idea, but I don't. And I know there are lots of employees at Walmart that think it's a terrible idea because they're getting fired, they're getting laid off, they don't have jobs anymore because of this automation. And while automation can be good in certain instances, when it makes people lose their job, it's probably not the best thing for the economy or the country. But corporations don't care about what's good for the company, or scratch that. They absolutely care what's good for the company. They don't care. They could give two shits about what's good for you, for me, or for the United States. They care about their profit. They care about their bottom line. And these self-check kiosks are a joke. Tell you why. But before I do, let me roll out their value proposition, which is, with this partnership, eligible shoppers can easily pay over time for their favorite electronics, apparel, toys, and more in simple monthly payments when checking themselves out in store. And as per Affirm and their research, it revealed that more than half of Americans, 54% to be exact, are looking for retailers to offer a buy now, pay later option at checkout. Moreover, Affirm has found that 76% of consumers would either delay or not make a purchase without the buy now, pay later option. And expanding our partnership with Walmart and bringing Affirm's transparent monthly pay over time options to their self-checkout kiosks in the United States will help even more consumers increase their purchasing power during the holiday season and beyond. And they go on to say, in addition to being available in Walmart stores nationwide, on Walmart.com, and in the Walmart app, U.S. consumers can also pay over time with Affirm at Walmart Vision and Auto Centers. As is always true with the firm, customers are shown the total cost of their purchase and will never pay more than they agree to up front. Affirm never charges any late or hidden fees. And if you believe that's true, then I've got a bridge in Margate that I want to sell you. And to be abundantly clear, this entire system is rigged. It is a total scam. It is a push to get your information and get you to opt in to a social credit score. But they're never going to tell you that. But it will be revealed because the facts, the numbers, don't lie. But credit analysts, and to be clear, my opinion of analysts is not very high because analysts are wrong more than they're right. But let's just take this at face value. Credit analysts are also registering concern about the spike in shoppers turning to Affirm, Klarna, and other ubiquitous payment schemes for gifts this Christmas, when the higher costs for housing and food, as well as borrowing on everything from credit cards to car loans, squeeze budgets. Well, I don't know about you, but the last thing that I want to take on for Christmas is additional debt. And the very last thing that I want to do, if I choose to take on more debt, is get banged over the head by 40% in interest rates. And while it is factually true, if you use these buy now, pay later services and you pay on time and you do it the right way, well, then there are probably not going to be any additional fees. However, 76% of the people who use the service don't actually follow those terms. They find themselves in trouble. And there's a reason for that. People who are using buy now, pay later don't have the money to buy now, period. And they probably don't have the money to pay later, period. Instead, these folks are probably in real trouble and determining whether they can feed their family or pay their car payment or pay their mortgage or pay their rent or keep their job. They're in financial pain, and they're using this buffer as a tool to keep kicking the can down the road, because the truth is way too scary. Nobody wants to admit that they're about to get run over by a runaway train of debt obligations that they've taken on and skyrocketing interest rates. And shout out to my friends, Kevin, Michelle, Ron. You must check out their channels because they actually turned me on to some of these things that are happening right now. But check out their channels at Kevin247, at Squirrel Tribe, and at Squirrel Tribe Life, and at Ron Yates, because they're some of the best people you will ever meet, and they put out tremendous content, which, if you like me, then I suspect you're gonna love them too. But if you're struggling with buy now, pay later, just know you are not alone. And Walmart is a complete scumbag operation, in my opinion. And here's why. They're making it extremely easy for vulnerable folks who are financially challenged to go out there and take on more debt. And no, they're not going to run your credit. No, they're not going to ask for your social security number. They're going to make it really easy for you to say yes to terms that you're never going to read, you're never going to understand, and you're going to be saddled with the damage of it. But I'm going to share exactly what that looks like so you don't fall into the trap. But I don't think enough people are going to see it. And truthfully, this will cause catastrophic consequences, which you're about to learn institutional hedge funds are profiting from. And I hope you're asking, well, Chris, how is that possible? Trust me, I'm going to share exactly how. But just imagine it, you're in the self-checkout line, you're in the kiosk, and I don't know the last time you've been to one of these stores, but I was in Target yesterday. The store is completely dead. There's one actual human working a register, and she's about 100 years old. She definitely doesn't want to be working there. She seemed absolutely miserable and totally incompetent in terms of checking somebody out accurately. And while the store was in fact basically dead, it was very empty and the shelves were basically barren, which isn't exactly unexpected the day after Christmas, but the self-checkout line was mobbed. And mobbed being a relative term, but there were about 25 people in this one queue to access the self-checkout kiosks. And while 20 people may seem like a lot of people in line, if you're at the end of the line, when you're in a massive superstore and there's only 20 people in the store is empty. But the buy now, pay later folks don't care. They're ringing the register like it's gangbusters because they're getting so many people to enroll in their trap. And it's highly profitable for them. But where it's even more insidious is because there is no credit check, instead, there's a very easy way for you to opt in and register through your Facebook account or some other social platform. And what do you think happens when the company has access to your social media profile? They give you a social credit score. And if I didn't know who was behind these companies, I probably wouldn't care very much. Because I understand business and I understand that businesses are not charities, they're running a for-profit business. But when the corporation is in bed with the government, well then I'm very concerned about the access to information that we're sharing. And Klarna, one of Affirm's competitors, but in the same buy now, pay later space, they're so profitable, they're about to roll out a damn near $7 billion IPO. And an IPO, for those who don't know, is an initial public offering of stock. It's where the extremely wealthy hedge funds, institutions, and early investors make billions. And when I share in a minute exactly who these institutions are, you're not going to be happy because they're all part of the ESG, World Economic Forum, you will own nothing and like it, posse. So they're profiting up the wazoo while you're paying debt and drowning in it. Because if you use their buy now, pay later service and you aren't able to comply with their terms, which most people, at least according to Affirm, 74% of the folks who use it cannot, and let's just say you decide to buy now, pay later on $1,000 worth of items, you're going to be penalized to the tune of a 38% interest rate. And if your minimum payment is 4%, which I'm just kind of making up terms here to illustrate the point, but if that's true, the $1,000 that you borrowed will translate into it taking you 13 years and 11 months, let's just round it up to 14 years, to pay off that debt. And you will have paid damn near 4 times the amount you borrowed. You're going to pay back almost $4,000 in total payments, which sucks for us, but it's great for those companies. So much so that the insiders in the company, the people who work for the company, are out there selling stock like it's going out of style. They're cashing in $3.25 million worth of stock, $57 million worth of stock, $45 million worth of stock, $5 million, $4 million, $115 million. And this is all in the last year. And I've always said to all of my clients, when I was a stockbroker, follow the money. Look what insiders are doing. And insiders, at least in Affirm, are selling their stock as much as possible. What's really cute is that the chief financial officer who sold $3.25 million worth of stock, when he sold 65,000 shares at 50, almost immediately bought back another 65,000 shares at 5. But Morgan Stanley, one of the big institutions, owns $1.67 billion worth of this company. Capital Research Global Investors owns $1.07 billion worth of this company. And the list goes on and on. BlackRock, Shopify, Goldman Sachs, and Citadel, they're all sitting on hundreds of millions, if not cumulatively, billions of dollars worth of shares in these companies. Which, by the way, is how capitalism works, so I don't begrudge them on taking on an investment and making money. That's what happens in the market. But if each of these institutions, which most of them are tied in with the government in some way, have access to your social credit score, well, it tells me we are in serious trouble and the collapse has begun.